Until man duplicates a blade of grass, nature can laugh at his so-called scientific knowledge. Remedies from chemicals will never stand in favor compared with the products of nature. The living cell of the plant, the final rays of the sun, the mother of all life, Thomas Edison. Now, Edison died in 1931 when everything was organic until the chemical revolution in the 40s. And that's significant because of what Edison said. Remedies from chemicals are inferior to the products of nature, so what has been done to us is those products have been adulterated. The chemical revolution kicked in. We started growing our food on artificial fertilizers and spraying them with pesticides, making the plants weak. That's why they had to spray them so much. And this is all by design, my folks. Everything we master can be used against us and become a weapon system. Fifth thing we master with chemicals. Now, they've been using this against us for a long time. It's a form of black magic. All these things we master and are used against us is what's known as black magic. I remember when I first studied the arrivals and I realized the people who rule the world are psychopaths and con artists and magicians. I created files on those to help me understand them better. And of course I tied that into immediately what George Malcolm said. He said, I was a Baptist preacher for 25 years before I came down with cancer, and then I realized the information's in the Bible. I was going through the Bible, but the Bible wasn't going through me. I read things, I didn't understand it. It says right there, you destroy the temple, you'll be destroyed. The body is the temple, not the church. But then he quoted 18:23, Revelation 18:23, for by sorceries were all nations deceived. This is black magic. This is where the sorcerer comes into play. This is pharmakeia, pharmacist, drugs, allopathic medicine. We're being deceived. We're being tricked. The people who rule the world are like magicians. They grow our food on artificial fertilizers, and it looks like food because they're growing it with three main minerals, NPK, so they know that will make the plant grow, but then they're not giving the plant all the other minerals that it would need. So it's inferior food. Remember, according to Dr. Pop, organic food has 5 times the biophotons as does conventional food. It's magic. Remember the final results of the rays of the sun, the mother of all life? We store that in the nucleus of our cells. It's biophotons. Why do you think I talk about biophotons so much? Because when we grow our food on artificial fertilizers and spraying with pesticides, we lose 83% of these biophotons. This is what's needed to heal us. It's just like how they tried to control the supplement in herbal industry and they couldn't do it, so what the drug companies did is they just bought out the herb companies, and now they make sure they sell inferior herbs. They go there and only buy herbs that are grown on bad soil and sprayed with pesticides, or if they're not, they'll be sure and spray them to make them inferior so they come back and they won't work. We have to understand nothing's getting better, nothing's changing. In 1861, Dr. Russell Trawl pleaded to 5,000 people at Smithsonian in Washington. A lot of officials were there saying, the system's not working. The drugs make everything worse. Nothing has changed since then. Take a look at the war on cancer. Started by Nixon in 1971. In the first 30 years on this war, we spent over $200 billion on cancer research. We had over 1.5 million research papers. And yet, are things getting better or are they getting worse? They're getting a whole lot worse. A whole lot worse. Not getting better. Because there are no solutions in the box that these guys are put into. And again, nothing's changed. We're always being bamboozled. They always tell us the same thing. The cure is just around the corner. We just need more research. They got a new show now on the Discovery Channel, First in Human. And they're showing the efforts of the NIH, National Institutes of Health. It's supposed to be the government section to help us find a cure for all of our diseases. And of course the government's corrupt. These agencies are corrupt. They're not studying nutrition. Their budget's huge. It's in the billions of dollars. And it's all looking for that magic bullet, the cure that doesn't exist. And this show is bragging about we got brilliant minds and courageous patience. Being first in human. We already tried it on the animals. Okay, we took a tumor out of this person, created a couple dozen batches, did different things to it, injected into all these different animals, and all of them died but this one, so we're going to use that one and try it on you. See if it doesn't kill you, we'll kill that cancer. There is no war on cancer because cancer is not an entity, but that's the metaphor they use. To them, disease is an entity, and it's a war metaphor. We got to kill the enemy. That's why they give us things that kill us. So when you get cancer, radiation is going to cause cancer. Chemotherapy is going to cause cancer. Now, why do they do that? Because we got a sick world where people are in charge that control what these people learn. These people are not brilliant minds because they've been put in a box and they can't get out of a box. It takes an intelligent mind to get out of a box that you've been put in, because you have to be able to consider more than one possibility at the same time. You got to consider that the shit that you've been taught is wrong, and yet you're in a box, and that there aren't any cures in your little box. There never has been, and there never will be. The cures are outside your box. You don't have a brilliant mind. You people aren't brilliant. You've been specially selected because you can memorize things, and that's not a sign of intelligence. You're not problem solving. Our whole school system, the way it's designed, is to reward the type of people who will become the doctors and the lawyers that will follow rules and they won't question authority. Now, this is by design. I'm not making this up. Study Charlotte Isabey, John Taylor Gatto, they wrote books on this subject. The educational systems are designed to not teach us critical thinking skills and to reward people for traits that will just make them sheep and not question anything to get out of that box. So if you want to find a cure for cancer, for all you medical researchers out there working for the NIH, think outside the box. Hold more than one possibility in your mind at the same time. Entertain various ideas that are not inside your box. Consider the possibility that you are in a box. That's the main thing they can't do. They cannot admit they're in a box. They think they're right. They think they've got the only solution, and they're so totally clueless it's not even funny, because people are dying because of this ignorance and evil act to keep using poisons in the name of health. Now, so let's put things in perspective. 1970, there was like 1 out of 3 people getting cancer. In 2001, towards the end of that, let's take a look at 1983, for example. In the New England Journal of Medicine, they stated and admitted that 70% of our diseases are lifestyle related. And that means that they're avoidable and reversible. Now, has anything changed? Have they changed? Has their curriculum changed? No. What should they do? Well, they said, well, let's take a look at what we're doing. 70% is lifestyle related. We got to stop using drugs and surgery for that and study lifestyle choices, and then only use it for 30%. But those numbers are wrong. And then in 2001, they came out in JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, they came out and admitted that the U.S. healthcare system is the number 3 cause of death in America. But guess what? Those numbers were way too low. They did another study in 2004, death by medicine. You guys are number 1. Over 800,000 people back then were dying because of you guys. And that doesn't count the other people dying of heart disease and cancer because of you guys. Trying to find a cure, and there is no cures for lifestyle-related problems. That's what Edison meant. Remedies from chemicals will never stand in favor compared with the products of nature. We're violating laws of nature. All we have to do to solve these warning signs that we're violating these laws is to obey the laws. It's not complicated. But that isn't taught inside the little box that they're put in. So here we have organized medicine admitting 70% of our diseases are lifestyle related, and we still don't study that. We still treat everything the same. And we even admit that we're the 3rd leading cause of death in America. Even though the real numbers are, you're number 1. And it's like 100% of our diseases are lifestyle related. Everything is lifestyle related. We're living systems, we're open systems. We depend on an environment to sustain us, and then we interact with that environment. So those are our lifestyle factors. Remember, there's 12 essential needs. The environment's one of them. It's an extension of us. It's part of our external metabolism. Can't exclude it from us. We're part of the web. And there are 11 main ways we interact with that environment. And when we don't do that the right way, We have a feedback system, illnesses and ill behaviors. And they don't teach that to these so-called experts, the most brilliant minds supposedly, because they can memorize all this information. Now this is all a propaganda piece. Most people don't know enough about medicine to watch this show and not be in awe of these people going, yeah, they're telling us they're brilliant, look what they're doing, oh my God, that's brilliant, 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 they're going to find a cure. It's not that complicated. And the great thing is there's not a person out there who can't prove this to yourself. Now that's what's exciting, is to not have to rely on someone else and whether or not the study's dependable. Remember, the NIH doesn't study nutrition. I don't know what the numbers are now, but back when Campbell wrote his book, The China Study, there were like 27 branches of that division in that branch, or in that governmental agency, and not a one of them were studying nutrition at that time. And when they do study nutrition, they study supplements just so they can say, okay, see, you know, it isn't calcium, we added calcium and didn't do anything. You're looking at the deficiency side when you go looking at supplements. You don't look at the toxicity side, and that's what you guys got to do. So that's the big problem with our system in charge right now. They don't know where the problem is coming from. It's coming from the toxicity side of the equation. Most of our diseases are coming from our own waste matter backing up, or from other waste matter coming in. So when you start blaming things on mosquitoes and ticks and mice or whatever that is bringing disease to us, they're bringing filth to us. That's all they are. Parasites are transmitters of filth. There's filth outside, there's filth inside. A lot of diseases come from that filth outside. They don't exist anymore because we cleaned up our mess, but the vaccines cured it, right? They came along, conventional medicine said, we got the vaccines to get rid of those diseases. That's all a lie. They were disease of poor sanitation. We figured it out. But we still are missing the most important piece of the puzzle. That most of our diseases are coming when our own body backs up into itself. Remember, the body's nothing but a bunch of cells and two fluids. As Dr. Max Gerson said of his own profession, we don't study the concept of totality. We have specialists that study these cells, but we don't study all the cells. We don't understand how the kidneys and adrenals or anything else affects the eyes. So when you got problems with your eyes, we don't know what's going on because we don't study the other parts of the body. But the main thing they don't study is the lymph system. Bunch of cells, two fluids, blood's the kitchen, feeds it. The lymph system, the bathroom, cleans, protects it. That's where our disease is coming from. Backing up from the lymph system. It's that simple. Cancer, what are they doing? They're taking the tumor and they're trying to figure out some way to screw up the body, or kill the tumor. Most tumors inside of our body come directly from our own waste matter. And if it's cancerous, that means it's still very acidic. Remember, our cells are like everything else. They've got to eat and they've got to poop. That's what we do. You know, our little cells are eating and they have a little bit of caca coming out. And the caca goes into the bathroom. And the caca backs up. And when caca backs up into us, that's what we got. Disease, it's that simple. But then sometimes it can, a bunch of caca can accumulate in a mass. So now you got a big old hard mass of this hard lymph fluid. And if it's still 3 pH as it came out of the cells, if the bacteria had a chance to convert to 6 pH, that's going to burn cells. That's cancer. So doctors are clueless to what the cause of cancer is. Anything that can burn the body is going to cause cancer, like radiation and chemotherapy. So why do they do that? Why do they give us chemotherapy? And what is chemotherapy? Chemotherapy is nothing but diluted battery acid. 10% battery acid solution. That's what chemotherapy is. You can make your own chemo. Here you go. Here's a video on making your own chemo. Go get some battery acid. Take 1 part battery acid, 9 parts solvent, mix it together. Now you got 10% battery acid. You got chemo. Now how is that supposed to heal the body? It doesn't. It kills the cancer. Cancer is an entity. It's getting you. No, it's not. They're getting us. Disease is not an entity. It's not an entity. It's a bodily process. The body's trying to deal with the waste matter in us. And I'm telling you, it's not that complicated. We just got to learn to recognize propaganda when we see it. First in humans is more propaganda to make us think that someone like us that comes along and starts talking about a real cure for cancer, they'll look at you and go, you're not a brilliant mind. You're not as brilliant as the guy I saw last night on TV. That was a brilliant mind. I couldn't even understand what he was saying. Did you see what he's doing? My God. Life is an illusion for all of us, especially our so-called experts. They're misdirected. They'll never find a solution inside their box, and it's so hard for them to escape their little bitty box because it requires an intelligent mind. They ain't got one. Memorization is not intelligence. It's not problem solving. They don't teach that. That's what I was telling you about these books earlier. They do not teach critical thinking skills in our school systems, and they haven't done so in a long time. They reward it based on memorization. So please don't put your faith in doctors. They don't have the solution. The cure is not just around the corner. It's never going to exist. War on cancer is like the war on terror. It's all made up to keep us in fear. They'll never fight. They'll never be able to stop the war on terror. There's always going to be an enemy to attack, just like the war on cancer. If we don't wake up individually and figure this out, we're going to continue to suffer. But if we can wake up and figure it out, we'll be in for a treat.